It was just after 7 o'clock on a quiet Sunday morning. The sailors at Pearl Harbor were expecting another peaceful day. Some were eating breakfast. Others were preparing for routine duties. No one imagined that, within minutes, history would change forever. Suddenly, the sound of aircraft engines filled the sky. At first, many believed they were seeing friendly planes. Then the explosions began. Smoke rose above the harbor. Ships were hit. Confusion spread across the base. By the time the attack ended, the United States had suffered one of the greatest shocks in its history. The next day, America entered World War II. But how did this happen? Why was Pearl Harbor attacked? And how did one morning change the course of the 20th century? This is the true story of Pearl Harbor. In 1941, Pearl Harbor, located on the island of Oahu in Hawaii, was one of America's most important naval bases. Battleships, destroyers, and support vessels were stationed there. Thousands of sailors, soldiers, and civilians lived and worked around the harbor. For many, life followed a familiar routine: training exercises, maintenance work, weekend activities. Although tensions were rising in the Pacific, most people at Pearl Harbor did not expect an attack to reach Hawaii itself. During the late 1930s and early 1940s, relations between the United States and Japan became increasingly strained. Japan sought greater influence in Asia, while the United States opposed further expansion and introduced economic restrictions, including limits on vital resources. Diplomatic negotiations continued, but trust between the two countries weakened. Military planners on both sides prepared for uncertain possibilities. By the end of 1941, the situation had become extremely tense. On the morning of December 7, 1941, the calm over Pearl Harbor disappeared. Aircraft approached the island. Within moments, the base came under attack. Sirens echoed across the harbor. Personnel rushed to their stations. Smoke filled the air as fires spread across parts of the naval base. Communication became difficult as everyone tried to understand what was happening. Despite the surprise, countless service members worked courageously to rescue others, control fires, and respond under extraordinary pressure. The attack lasted less than 2 hours, but its impact would be remembered for generations. News of the attack spread rapidly across the United States. Families gathered around radios. Newspapers released special editions. People searched for information about loved ones serving in Hawaii. Across the country, Americans struggled to understand how such a devastating surprise could occur. The events of that morning united the nation in a way few moments in history ever had. On December 8, 1941, President Franklin D. Roosevelt addressed the United States Congress. His speech became one of the most famous in American history. He described the previous day as a date which will live in infamy. The speech reflected the shock felt across the country and called for a united national response. Congress soon approved a declaration of war against Japan. The United States had officially entered World War II. America's entry into the war transformed the global conflict. Factories expanded production. Millions of men and women contributed to the war effort through military service and work on the home front. The conflict grew into a truly global war involving nations across Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Pacific. The events at Pearl Harbor became one of the defining turning points of the 20th century. Today, Pearl Harbor is a place of remembrance. Visitors from around the world come to honor those who lost their lives and to learn about the events of December 7th, 1941. The memorials stand not only as symbols of loss, but also of resilience, service, and the importance of preserving history. Pearl Harbor continues to remind future generations of the human cost of war and the value of peace. Pearl Harbor was more than a surprise attack. It changed the direction of American history. It reshaped World War II, and it influenced global events for decades to come. More than 80 years later, its story remains one of courage, sacrifice, and resilience. Understanding Pearl Harbor is not only about remembering the past, it is about understanding how a single morning changed the world forever. If you enjoyed this documentary, subscribe to Story Nest for more original documentaries about World War II, the Cold War, hidden history, and the untold stories that shaped our world. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next documentary.